Tell me, what's the dirtiest and most disgusting word your MSP knows? For many, it's compliance. However, while most MSPs see compliance as a hassle, it could be your ticket to standing out, scaling up, and even buying a new Porsche. So let's get into it. My special guest today is going to tell you how to turn compliance into a marketing edge, why it's a goldmine for profit, and the key to unlocking its full potential for your MSP's growth.
Hi, my name is Cam Roberson, and I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Beachhead Solutions.
And thank you so much for joining us from the beautiful San Jose. Is that how you pronounce it? San Jose? It is.
Exactly.
Yeah. In California, where for you it's sunny and light, and here in the UK, where I'm based, it's wet, it's raining, it's dark, and it's miserable. And why don't I live in California? Anyway, we're not here to talk about California in the UK. We're here to talk about growing monthly recurring revenue through compliance, which is something that many MSPs have looked at, and maybe they've been put off a little bit because even just the word compliance is a horrible word. But we're going to talk about how we do that. Before we do, Cam, let's explore your career a little bit, because you have quite an impressive track record in using compliance and helping businesses with compliance. And particularly helping MSPs to turn that into a profit center. So give us a brief overview of how you've got to where you are today.
Okay, how much time do we have?
Not much. Just make it a brief one.
I'll make it brief. I started my career with Apple Computer. In the early days, we were involved with imaging. So I was in product management, developing products for our imaging space. I've had just 3 careers, essentially. I started then an ad agency, which I grew to become one of the top agencies in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of my clients was Beachhead Solutions. And just about the time I was prepared to sell the business, my colleagues then at Beachhead asked me to come and join the company to run marketing for them. And so it was, we were already doing a lot of the collateral and the positioning and branding and so forth for the company. And so it was very appealing to me. And of course, then coincidence had it that the business was sold successfully. And I went to work for Beachhead, and I've been there ever since.
Amazing. That's a really great story. And this company, Apple, that you say you work for, what do they do?
Well, then we did computers, personal computers, to compete with the monolith, and which was IBM at that time, and now, of course, more known for phones and tablets.
Yeah, I'll have to Google them later and see what they do. So let's talk about compliance. So just that word, and perhaps I should say when I work in marketing, right? So I'm not a tech person. Obviously, I work with MSPs, but marketing is the least regulated space on the planet. So, and you'll know this because you used to run an ad agency, right? So there's apart from there's a few basic rules you must stick to, and like here in the UK, we have the Advertising Standards Authority. So if I put an advert out and I put it on TV and it's factually incorrect, I'm in trouble, right? But the reality is there's so many checks and balances to stop that happening, you wouldn't do it. But in most other marketing, there's very few rules. And I'm sure this is exactly the same for you with your ad agency. And most MSPs, I know now and again there's talk of, what if MSPs become regulated? And that kind of that fear, well, some fear that, some welcome that, it kind of goes around now and again. But the reality is, compared to real compliance, we as marketers and as MSPs, we don't have that compliance burden at all. So you can understand why a lot of MSPs would see the word compliance and think, yeah, I'm not going near that, even though there are plenty of software solutions and other ways that we could do it. When you talk to MSPs about turning compliance into a revenue stream and a profit center, how do you overcome that natural reluctance to get involved in the client's compliance?
Yeah, that's a great question. Fortunately, that's becoming less of an issue over time because it's coming from the MSP's clients. They're getting, more and more learning that they are in fact regulated by one mandate or another. Or they're seeing it as evidenced by things like supply chain questionnaires from those that are in their space. Hey, what are you guys doing from a compliance perspective? What are you building your security stack against? Or with insurance questionnaires. Good security is good security, and compliance demands good security. And as a result, the insurance companies, they're not stupid. They're formulating their requirements based on certain frameworks, certain security standards, much of which mirror exactly these compliance mandates. So, it is in fact, going to your point about, it's a fear factor.
Yeah.
And I know, HIPAA was the bellwether years ago. That's for the medical industry primarily. A lot of them they didn't want to hear about it. We'll just push this down the road and not think about it, because it is daunting. And I think that's the backward approach. Instead of looking at it as something that's onerous and going to make it tough on you, instead look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect approach. And I guess we all deal with enforced change in different ways, don't we? So some people embrace it early on. Some people have to be pushed into it. But hey, let's be honest, it's managed services, right? It's not IT support anymore. Those days have gone. And so what do you do to help MSPs take that compliance and take it from being a burden to becoming a profit center?
Well, I think that it's incumbent upon vendors in the space to provide tools that assist the MSP with providing the service and to be able to demonstrate compliance. And so we are, I don't mean this to be a plug, and I don't think we're unlike other vendors. We are providing the mapping from our services, our controls, to the control numbers that are required of the various mandates. I think that is a trend that will continue to see that and provide tools that will assist the MSP with, providing compliance and to be able to demonstrate compliance in the event of an audit or a breach or whatever. So we're recognizing that this is, something that's coming. It has come in some respects, but I think more and more, just like anything, it filters from large enterprise and it works its way down such that everybody is going to be held to this, similar standards. And so getting ahead of things for us is to help our MSPs, but for the MSP is to start thinking about these things, understanding where their stacks up. Mm-hmm. Pardon the expression there, but where there might be gaps and how we fill those gaps so that we can provide the service appropriate for the regulated client.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we will come on to just a brief look at the exact services you offer. We'll do that towards the end of the interview.
Sure.
So in terms of, we've got this compliance then, the clients need to do this compliance. Let's be honest, regulation is not getting less. There's more and more regulation. So the need is going up. Do you recommend to MSPs then to try and get ahead of the curve? So to actually get to grips with it, put in place compliance solutions, and then be the one that can proactively go out to their clients and say, hey, what regulations do you guys have to comply with? Because we now can help with XYZ. Do you recommend that? Yeah. And is that, as much as you recommend that, is that the route that most MSPs go down, or do they tend to come to you when they're already a little bit behind the curve because a client has already asked them something they don't know how to deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. The best case scenario, if your client comes to you, and they will come to you, is for you not to have the answers. And I absolutely recommend, being compliant is not rocket science. It is a bit tedious. It's a bit, requires research. What tools in my stack address these requirements of the mandate? And I don't intend to scare MSPs, because most MSPs have a terrific stack. They have tools in place that secure data and prevent, compromise, but they're not exactly sure how those map to the specific numbers. Mm-hmm. And so most will find when they go through this exercise, and my recommendation is to start with a framework, 800.171. It's a NIST publication, or CSF, Cybersecurity Framework. Go through that, map your products to those control numbers, and get a start on this whole process. Because once you are able to identify that, you'll know where you may have holes. you'll know the answers for the various mandates. And the good news is it's becoming more formalized. Most are now referring most compliance mandates, and you're aware of them, right? There's CMMC 2.0, which goes into place in several days now. FTC safeguards, HIPAA. They're more and more referencing frameworks so that instead of having all these different mandates and numbers, they're sort of focusing on and getting more homogeneous. Because as I mentioned earlier, good security is good security. Have MFA in place, have encryption in place, have, data segmentation and those sorts of things. And then, you're going to be much better prepared to answer that question when the MSP says to you, hey, I just learned that I'm regulated by the FTC safeguards rule. How are we in position yet to yes, no, you'll have those answers. As I said, that's the, being embarrassed maybe is the best case scenario, but those clients that are regulated are going to be looking for a more comprehensive service.
Yeah.
If you're not expert or have no answers, chances are they may go to someone who is.
That makes perfect sense. So actually, you as the MSP, you can jump in and you can say, hey, I don't know about that specific regulation, but I do understand that most are on a framework and we're set up to help with XYZ framework whatsoever. I must just mention, Cam, you just mentioned something which goes live in a few days. We recorded this back in December last year. And obviously we're listening to it on the podcast or seeing it on YouTube today. So that whatever that regulation was you mentioned, that's live. That's been live for a few months now. But yeah, no, I think so essentially what you're saying is be prepared, right? Understand that the regulations tend to sit on top of frameworks, and then obviously know where to go to get the solution from that. And let's swing that round and finish this interview off by looking at what it is that you and your business specifically does to help MSPs. So let's take that exact scenario that you've got an MSP, they know that their clients are regulated, they perhaps don't know exactly what it is, what it means, they know it might be a framework. How does your business fit in there? Tell us what you do, how it helps.
Okay, yeah. So thank you for asking. Beachhead Secure is a platform for MSPs specifically to provide, first, the controls. We actually provide 150 of the controls necessary of the various mandates. So manage those controls, make sure they're in place, be able to demonstrate that you're providing those controls for your clients, and then be able to document it. And so, again, I know this is going to air later. By the time this airs, we will be able to, within the product, be able to map all those controls that we provide, encryption, MFA, least access privilege, data sanitization, to the control numbers that are required of the various mandates. So if you have a client that is regulated by HIPAA, for instance, you'll be able to see the controls that are put in place so that you can document it for an audit, or under circumstance of a breach, or to provide that service to a client and say, look, we have the controls necessary in place for HIPAA in this instance. Here's proof. Here's what we'll need to provide an auditor if and when, or we are somehow, unfortunately, audited.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, Cam, thank you for explaining that for us. Thank you for taking us through that. I think we're almost talking about a mind shift here, aren't we? About a mind shift from, oh no, the clients are asking for help on something I don't want to be involved with, to, hey, it's inevitable. It's almost like cybersecurity 10 years ago, isn't it? That 10 years ago, people were starting to ask about, what's this cybersecurity thing? Or why is my screen gone red? What can I do about that? And not a single MSP on the planet today would not touch cybersecurity. It's a standard thing. And I think what you're saying, I think reading the subtext, is that compliance is just going to become another one of those things. And we don't want them going anywhere else. We don't want them forming a relationship with another MSP anywhere. We want them continuing and strengthening the relationship with you, which means you have to take a proactive approach to compliance. And it certainly sounds like you guys have put together a great solution for that. Let's just finish off then, Cam. Just tell us, what's the best way to get in touch with you? So what's your website? How can we find you on LinkedIn?
We are at www.Beachhead Solutions. There's 2 H's in Beachhead, which often is overlooked. I'm Cam Roberson on LinkedIn. I was, I've been around a while, so I've got that. Cam Roberson is me, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Just one last point, Paul. I think that a lot of our community struggles to distinguish our practice, how to differentiate our offering from the guy in the next county or the large nationwide type guy. This is a great way to distinguish your practice, compliance, as opposed to, having the lowest price out there. And unfortunately, many go that direction. I think this is an opportunity for MSPs to differentiate their offering from the competition.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.